barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. Get your barbecue on. Get your barbecue on. Get your barbecue.
Welcome to the BBQ Therapy podcast. My name is Tavis Bryant of Yago Ham Barbecue. Have you ever stood around a smoker or a grill and felt the world fade away? Now that's barbecue therapy. And tonight we have Vincent and Joyce Regino, known as Regi-Q. Today on Barbecue Therapy, we're joined by fierce competitors, flavor innovators, and someone whose name rings out across the competition circuit, Regi-Q. Whether they're lighting up the pit with bold technique and mentoring the next generation of pit masters, Regi-Q brings heart, heat, and hustle to everything they do. From backyard beginnings to barbecue big leagues, we're digging into the journey, the gear, and the grind that keeps Regi-Q smoking. Let's get into it. Welcome to the show. I got one rule: make yourself at home and just enjoy yourself. Feel free. This is not corporate, so you can speak freely.
Thank you for having us on. Definitely a pleasure being on the show. Love seeing the hustle yourself coming out, doing the show, getting started and whatnot. So we definitely appreciate having us on.
Oh, no problem. We're going to start out from the beginning. For those that can't figure it out, where does the name Regi-Q come from?
So it's really kind of a play on my last name. Last name is Regino, Regino. When I was growing up in middle school, I had a few friends that would call me Reggie. And kind of growing up through high school, whatnot, it was one of those things where not everyone called me Reggie, but not everyone knew I cooked as well. And so, kind of, I would tell my wife, like, when we started the barbecue thing, I wanted to be Regi-Q because it was a nickname that only a few knew me by. Only a few people knew we even, really cooked. So it kind of fit perfectly. And then the Q behind it, man, it just made sense. I saw pretty quick it was catchy, and I was like, man, we could run with that.
That's how it kind of came over mine, because my nickname is Yago. So I split it in half and made it Yago Ham. So go ham. That's how you go ham. So.
See, we were just made for the barbecue stuff.
Exactly. So what got each of y'all into barbecue? So I know y'all probably didn't get there at the same time, but what got each of y'all into barbecue?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been really barbecuing my whole life. I'd say I'm more like an outdoor cook chef type of thing rather than, just straight barbecue. Growing up, it was a lot of cooking outdoors, all sorts of things, cooking barbacoa, tripas, carnitas, cooking everything kind of on the Mexican style, the casos and whatnot, a lot of live fire. And so that's really kind of motivated me to kind of get into this. And then, of course, we had, a lot of backyard, barbecues and whatnot with the family. So a lot of it for me was really just outdoor cooking. I think for Joyce, a lot of it was kind of the same.
Yeah. It's almost a tradition through our culture, right? We cook out every weekend. But yeah, we get to experience the different styles of cooking, from pork to, you're looking at pork rinds and how to cook different styles, right? Different kinds of meats, not just your traditional beef or steaks. It gets pretty detailed on the different kinds of meats you can cook out there.
That's true.
Yeah, so I think it was just a lot of just cooking in general that really led us to the barbecue side. And then obviously kind of getting to the competition side, a lot of it was just, growing up for myself, playing a lot of sports and being around a lot of camaraderie. And I kind of got to the point, they make that joke. It's like once you turn 35, you either get into like barbecue or, World War II history type of thing.
Yeah.
We were 28 at the time, and it was like, hey, something's missing here. And I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to, I don't want to go back out and play rugby or something like that. I don't have that in me, but I'm definitely missing that, competitive camaraderie with the guys. And, growing up, I watched a lot of the, the barbecue pitmaster shows and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so seeing all that stuff, it was like, well, hey, here's the perfect opportunity to kind of get back into some competitive that I wanted to give a try. Just wasn't sure really where my expertise came in with the barbecue, see how we would stand up to everyone else.
Okay. And did you have any influences or go any classes or anything around it?
Yeah, before we got into it, a lot of the influence that I had, growing up, my father was really into the backyard barbecue stuff. But I had a bunch of uncles and and whatnot that would do a lot of outdoor cooking as well. So but that's really my influence. It really comes from all sorts of family members, not just one, unfortunately. And then on top of that, I think for me, sitting around the fire and kind of poking the fire as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and whatnot, kind of stuck in the fire as they're cooking. I think really the taking care of the fire and managing the fire, seeing the fire break down, and all of that's what really influenced me. Just the actual art of the fire. That's what really kind of pushed me to continue on.
Okay. And how would you describe your barbecue style?
Savory, savory, bold, flavorful. Never too
Yes.
salty, never too this, never too that. But savory and then right down the middle, in my opinion.
And tender.
Tender. You gotta have that tender food.
But what protein do y'all feel most confident cooking in a competition?
So most confident protein, and we joke about this often, my most confident protein is definitely my pork for competition. That's just for me. I love cooking pork. Here in Texas, we have pork, but probably only about 67% of comps have it. So when we get a chance to cook pork, I love cooking pork. But as far as our best protein, for myself, when I compete, my best protein is definitely my brisket.
Yeah.
That's the one that we've kind of made our name on. And even, our first seasoning's named cow tipper, so when you have a seasoning named cow tipper, you better kind of bring it on the beef.
Yeah, definitely.
That's definitely true. So when y'all do comps, do sometimes y'all compete together or?
Yes, so we started off together the first 2 years, I would say.
The first 2
It-
years.
That not until the last year and a half that we made the decision that we wanted to really take it up a notch and really compete out there in the bigger competitions, that I really have to get in there and really know what we're doing out here and how else I can elevate our barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he took about 6 months off of like just competing on and off, and guided me to just compete on your own and prove yourself that you can independently run it yourself. And it worked out really well. I think, what was it, my first competition?
Yeah, so the first competition didn't go too well.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of that was it's a 4-meat competition for both of us.
Yeah.
We're competing against each other. And so it's a lot of the quirks of fitting in one trailer, getting
Yeah.
2 tables up,
Oh,
kind of
wow.
figuring that out.
Galley kitchen and rubbing butts the whole
Yeah.
time.
Trying
but-
to get stuff done.
But by the second competition I had down, I was able to grand champion that competition, and it was about out of 32 teams. So, I mean, winner's luck, or not, but I felt really confident on what I had turned in. It wasn't perfect how he does the trays or how he turns in, but it was definitely competing against others. I felt very
Really good.
confident.
Yeah. So she ended up grand championing her second, her third, and then reserve grand championing her fifth.
Yeah.
We got on a pretty favorable list.
He started questioning himself. Like, wait a minute.
And mind you, those first few comps were against each other.
Yes.
It wasn't like, it wasn't helping or anything like that. It was against each other. And she was, taking it to me and everyone else.
I'm not mad.
But yeah, it's a state of mind. Once you're out there, competition is on. You have to bring the best out.
We get asked often, do we keep stats against each other? And we definitely I believe she's beat me as grand champion twice.
Yeah.
And I've grand champion twice against her as well.
Yeah.
I have more top 10 finishes against her, but she also has a reserve grand champion against me. We don't try to be too competitive against each other, but we do know the stats.
Yeah.
Based on the Instagram, you got 4 grand champions and you got 10 or
I'm sitting at 11.
Yeah.
She's sitting at 4. And then I think RGCs, I'm sitting at 6 or so total.
Yeah.
I think she's sitting at 2.
At 2. Yeah.
So pretty decent numbers for her. I think we're sitting at about 140 comps combined.
Combined, yeah.
in the last
how long
4
did it
years.
take you to win your first GC?
It took, I want to say it was about a 12 comp total.
Yeah.
That was our first GC. Now going, as we were going, we had, I want to say in those first 11 comps, we had tied for a reserve grand champion on 3 occasions
Yeah.
and lost by a tiebreaker. So we had a third place a few times, which
Yeah.
that was kind of like going, getting over that little hump, if you will.
And what are y'all cooking on? Drums?
Yep. So right now we cook on drums. So if we're both cooking, we're taking 8 drums.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. One of us is cooking, then it's 4 drums. Now, thankfully, we're blessed. My wife is recently pregnant, so she'll be giving birth in September. Thank you.
Thank you.
So right now we haven't been running 2 teams too often.
Yep.
Obviously right now she's, sometimes she's a little more tired during
Yeah.
the day.
You gotta tell me.
So yeah.
I haven't slept in 13 months.
We're trying to sleep as much as we can now.
I'm gonna sleep while I can.
Exactly. I'm telling you. 13 months and she still wake up at least 2 to 4 times a night. So telling y'all, get it in now.
Yep.
Oh man.
And I waited until age 48 to have my first child.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is our first child.
Oh yeah. It gets harder and harder to make that decision as we're getting older. We're like, we're 34. It's now, or we're just gonna have to hold back.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife, she was 40. I was 48. So we got married, and then on the honeymoon, that's when she was conceived.
It all worked out though.
Said, yeah, I'm gonna have to pause my journey in the competition.
Just a little bit.
Exactly. Y'all
Yep.
cook for the CBA?
That's the majority of our cook-offs. About 80% of our cook-offs are CBA here in Texas. It's very similar to the KCBS. We have 1 hour turning windows, and we don't garnish any kale or anything like that. But when we do get an opportunity, we definitely try to get out Texas and do a lot of the KCBS around us.
Okay. What's the wildest thing that you have experienced at a barbecue competition?
We were talking about that before. You don't see a lot of crazy things. It could be like the littlest things that turn into crazy, someone missing a turkey or something like that.
Exactly.
The wildest thing for me probably is really because it was a personal connection. We give barbecue classes as well. And so we had just finished giving a barbecue class, and my routine is that I like to turn in not late, but kind of within 2 or 3 minutes of the turning window. And so in the barbecue class, I'm explaining to everyone, hey, this is the way I do it. I kind of have it down already. Move a little bit before I would, in your timeline. And so one of our teams had taken the class, they had first comp bout, they grand champion their first competition. So everyone's heater and hollering. Second comp, I'm turning in the last turning of the day brisket. And I'm turning it out. And I'm, when I turned, I probably had about 15 seconds. And I was pretty late on my own timeline. Turn around and someone missed turning. So I turn around and see who it is, and it's our studio walking in with their box. And they proceed on. There's about 45 teams or so. They proceed on. Had to been like a 4th place chicken, 3rd place ribs, 3rd place pork, and they missed brisket. Ended up missing brisket by 3 or 4 seconds, but that was likely going to be a
Grand champion.
second grand champion in a row for them.
Wow.
So for me, that was one of the wildest things. Kind of see someone that connected to us miss that turn in by just that little time.
Wow.
But it happens, unfortunately. We've seen a few drop boxes, people hauling tail on their golf carts. That box comes flying out. So, but that's really you don't see anything too crazy out in the competition world.
Literally, man coming off with a golf cart, bouncing off with the box.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Do y'all have any rituals or habits that y'all do before comp or anything?
So we always make the joke. We're not superstitious, just a little stitious, But on Friday night, she likes to do a little blessing around the RV,
A little sage.
A little sage blessing, and more like a cleansing, if you will. And try to get all the shaking stuff out of the trailer. And then so that's probably our only ritual that we really go through.
Yeah.
For me, I like, once like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock comes around, I like to play some music and kind of get that going pretty loud. But that's really about it. Nothing too crazy on the ritual side.
Throughout the week, maybe if we're getting signs like, oh, we found a penny on the floor, and that's, a good sign. We're finding that we're looking at the clock and it's 11:11 constantly. It's a good sign throughout the week,
Little things like that lead up, like, okay, we might just be having a good weekend.
Okay. And how do y'all bounce back from a bad cook or a low score?
Oh, it's a quiet atmosphere for a day or two here in the house. Because we're both really competitive, so it's not really like we're getting home and I'm the only one down about it. She's pretty upset. She's looking at the papers like, well, Judge 2 gave everyone you start really dissecting every little bit of it. But, it's really just kind of jumping back on the horse. That Sunday, whether we're winning, whether we won or lost, that Sunday's kind of a pretty down day because, you're exhausted from the day before. But, come Monday, if we had a good weekend or a bad weekend, it's pretty much just,
Get
business
back
as
on it.
usual, go find the meats,
Yeah.
go reload. The good thing, and it's a double-edged sword, it's a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, we're competing 40 times a year, traveling around. So those wins are very quick and those losses have to be super quick.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be worried about those losses, man, you're not going to have an opportunity to go out and win that next weekend. And so you have to have a short memory one way or the other, unfortunately. The Texas barbecue scene it really is a lot different than most other states out there because of the atmosphere that we have. I mean, you can go to any given weekend in the state of Texas, you're going to find one or two competitions with 10,000 or more on the line. And that's just the way it is here. And so, you can't really you have to have a short memory, whether it's a good or a bad weekend. Because everyone out here is gunning for that money at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, it's not. I'm in Georgia, so it's definitely not like that out here.
No, yeah, even next week, Father's Day weekend, they have one for 30,000, another one for 25,000. They're all centrally located, So Texas is big, but when they're centrally located, it's a 3-hour drive for everyone. So that's a quick drive. Here in Texas, that's a day trip.
Yeah. No. We're in Texas, so everything's pretty far.
So everything's pretty far. So, when you have that type of money that's being, put out there, you're always going to have a super, super high level competition to go against.
Told my wife, Texas.
Yeah.
There's money.
Yeah, no, there's money. There's definitely money behind out here in competition where we work correct.
Yeah, because I already love cowboy hats and boots, so.
Yeah.
Hey.
They'll fit in perfect too.
I want to congratulate y'all for Memphis and May. Y'all got a second place rib and using your product,
you.
correct?
Yes. Yep. We use
Good
all
deal.
of our products on that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we're definitely excited about that. It was actually our first time going out to Memphis in May. This past year in 2024, we had competed at the World Food Championships on the barbecue side of things. And we were luckily able to make it as the barbecue finalist. We ended up third to get into that round. And so out there, we met a couple that we kind of hit it off with. They're called Cooper's Next Level, but they're also world seafood champions on the World Food Championship
The main chef, Josh Cooper, he actually was in MasterChef season 9, I believe. But they're well known. I mean, they have their own rapport of well cooked, great cooks out there. So we just hit it off.
Yeah, we hit it off with them and kind of staying in contact. And it was probably around February they reached out and said, "Hey, would you like to go, come help us cook Memphis in May?" And there was a few conversations about some of the incidents we were doing, and we were just going to kind of help with the ribs and whatnot. And so I told Josh, I said, "Well, man, whatever I could help with, I'll be the best Danny dishwasher there is. Just get an opportunity to go to Memphis in May." And so we get there, and I took all of my stuff for, the way I would run my ribs. I felt like in Texas, we're being super, super consistent in the rib stuff. So I said, "Hey, I'll take everything just in case my number's called." And on Friday afternoon, I was like, "Hey, you want to just go for it and cook the ribs?" Yeah,
They're like, "Hell yes."
I'm like, "Heck yeah." So, all weekend it was he cooks on a jambo and I usually cook on a drum. But my whole life, I worked on, cooking on large offset smokers. So it was kind of like just jumping on a bike, and kind of working that. So it definitely helped that I cooked on it Thursday, cooked on it Friday. So Saturday morning when that rolled around, to get everything on about 4 a.m. We were just coasting. So thankfully we had a good plan in place, and we were able to execute on a lot of different levels. It's a lot of moving parts when you look at the way they judge things at Memphis in May.
Yeah, I usually drag my wife up there and walk around. We went in 23, and we went this year up there, so I probably ran past the tent a couple times.
But yeah, that on-site judging is significantly different. You know, 'cause here in Texas, we're using, in most competitions, you're turning it pretty much a blind block. You know, they're judging based off of that. You do have that in Memphis in May. You know, you got to turn in that blind box. But at the same time, the on-site judging, that's something that we had never been part of or never even seen. Thankfully, our team Swinos, with Josh and a few of the other guys, they've gone through the interview process before. So it was kind of one of those things where everyone kind of stayed in their lane and played their cards correctly. And when it was time to step up, everyone kind of hit it, right on the nail. So that was kind of the biggest thing. We went through that third interview, and everyone's pumped up and they run to the back, just super quick. And, Josh Cooper comes running by, like, what are you doing? I'm like, hey man, I'm starting this chimney. Like, we got to get those last 4 racks on the ribs on the back on the jambo to finish. He's like, man, that we got to get that going quickly. And it's like, dude, I had a feeling that we were making it to the finals.
Yeah.
I couldn't escape that feeling. So I couldn't really celebrate after the third judge left and about having a good interview. I wanted to get the ribs back on. So there we are, kind of sitting and waiting and going back and forth from the back of the, canopy to the front, seeing anyone walking. And so finally I go back and I sit down and I'm there and I'm telling my wife, like, man, it's about an hour and a half after the last judge left. I think the window's kind of closing. So
Yeah.
I message all my friends who were at that camp and that camp over there. And hey, whatever happens, whether you get in or we get in, just let us know.
Yes.
Because they don't come and say, hey, you did not get into the finals. So we're sitting there and I'm kind of like, man, I think it's going to be in the next 5 minutes. Someone's going to get cold. And we have a little bit of shade wall that's kind of blocking us from the other view. I just hear my buddy, Regi. Well, man, I stood up out of that chair so quick. And man, it was just an awesome experience to first time there, first time cooking on a jambo. And then how that experience of actually knowing, holy crap, we just made the finals, the rib finals, So that was an incredible feeling.
How many ribs did y'all cook total?
Yeah.
Believe we started, I want to say we purchased 20 racks of ribs. We had cooked, I want to say we did like a practice, when I say practice run, we seasoned them and then we kind of fed the people who were in our group. So we cooked 3 ribs on Thursday night, I believe. And then we ended up cooking 16 total on Saturday. So we ended up with, I think we cooked 12 racks for round 1. So we have the blind box and we have 3 interviews. And then we ended up cooking 4 racks of ribs we staggered them for 4 racks of ribs for the finals. So that stagger was super important for us because, if we didn't stagger them correctly, we wouldn't have had that second rack done. And, as soon as they came and announced that we were going to the rib finals, like, hey, you guys got 45 minutes to get ready. Thankfully, we had about 15 minutes left on those 4 racks of ribs that were on the jambo. So everything just worked out, flawlessly. The timing was perfect all around. So I knew we were going to have a good day. Think felt right.
We still laugh because how he says he came back right after the third interview. He started the chimney and they're like, what are you doing, man? Like, it has to be a really good box turn in for us to get into
Really
the
good
actual
blind box turn.
to actually get in the finals. And he looks at them. I ain't worried about that. I started my chimney.
Like,
We're
not
making
a
it.
blind box, man. That's what I do every weekend.
Like, we're making it.
Going to the finals. I feel it. We're going to the finals. We had a really good interview. All 3 of them. That was a job interview. I would have said we're getting the job.
Yeah.
A good way to put it.
It is. Yeah.
So y'all do 40 a year. Do y'all still have full-time jobs or y'all do full-time barbecue?
So now it is full-time barbecue. So we left our jobs at the end of 2024 with the approach of trying to get we left our jobs to pursue the seasonings more than a competition barbecue. It was really try to get the infrastructure up, get everything on the back done. We got our third rub release, and we have some injections and marinades that are coming out hopefully in the next 45 days. And so now all that is up, all the business side is up, the website is up and running, everything's going well. Now it's at the point where I'll probably end up, maybe going back to the workforce. But right now with the caterings and the seasonings, the classes, we even sell beef jerky on our website. So thankfully with everything going on right now, it's been sustainable. So that's the good thing. We've been able to work it into where it's a full-time job for both of us. But if we need to, it's really not that big a thing to go back to the corporate.
Well, I mean, since we went to that area, you can go ahead and, if you want, explain each of the rubs you got. I see it. Is that them behind you? Talk about it.
So our first rub that we came out with, and we started selling this one really more like at the beginning of our competition journey. It's cow tipper. It's a super savory beef rub. Now it's made for beef, but we use it on our pork as well. It even went on our ribs out there at Memphis in May. It gives just this beautiful red color to all your meats. Our second seasoning was our all-purpose seasoning, which is basically salt, pepper, garlic, a little bit of onion in there, and a few other things that really help separate it, stand out from a lot of the other kind of white and black pepper all-purposes that you'll see out there. That's our first layer seasoning that goes on everything, goes on our veggies, and we're making veggies here at home, even goes on the rim of our beer. It's just that good. Our most recent rub that we released is called Flocking Swine. This one was made specifically for our pork and specifically for our chicken. Now, a lot of the times what we see, a lot of the pork rubs we see, you have a hot and sweet component. Super hot, super sweet, or something kind of balanced the two. For our pork rub, it's got a deep sweet component, but it's also a sweet and savory instead of a sweet and spicy. So there is some kick on the back end for some of the chili powder that's in there. But it's a unique blend of sweet and savory rather than hot and sweet or sweet and hot. And so those are the three that went on those ribs at Memphis in May. They go on all the products that we use currently. We do have one more rub that we are working on to get released. That one will likely be just directly through our website though. But these three are right now we're in currently 24 stores across the country right now. And so we're definitely trying to expand that as much as we can, as quickly as we can, but also being, responsible in that expansion as well.
It's great. And I guess you could explain about the brisket jerky also.
Yeah. So the brisket jerky, I mean, that was just something that, I kind of over the years, we have so much jerky or so much brisket trimmings at home, and you can only ground down so much. So we get, big pieces of the flat. And I just started making small batches. And so one day I said, I'm going to try to sell this at a comp. And I think I ended up walking out with maybe 16 bags made. And they sold out within about 30 minutes of getting to the competition.
I mean, everybody's hanging out with their beer. So it's like, it goes great with it.
Exactly.
So that's something, and that's kind of goes to the thing where it's like, we love barbecue, but we're foodies at heart.
Yeah.
And so all sorts of little things that we love cooking that's not barbecue. I was talking with my buddy, Cooper from, Cooper's Next Level, and the swine was over at Memphis in May. And a lot of times, I mean, I feel more like a chef stuck in the barbecue world. And so that's kind of, we have a lot of foodie mentalities, and that's what we bring over into the barbecue world to really kind of help in our competition side.
Okay. I'm going to switch over to, because you said y'all do classes. What would someone expect if they came to one of your tell-all classes, and what advice do you give them?
So what to expect? Everything. It's a full tell-all class. Day one, it's about a 5-hour class. I mean, a lot of it is, textbook stuff. It's showing how we make the injections, how we make the salsas. We break them down. Everything. There's certain things we do in our class. I can't say it here because, to me, it's kind of, it's definitely the way we run our class is definitely unique. I will say that. I we've gotten a lot of feedback from people taking other classes. So I know the way we run it is very unique. So the way people come in, we're going to do our injections, we're going to do our sauces. Everyone's going to have
Fire
an
management.
opportunity to taste all of that. We're going to go right outside. We're going to do all the fire management, how we load our drums, how we maintain the drum all the way through the cook. So that's day one. And then day two, we're going to go through the actual cook itself. So we follow a full scheduled timeline. So everyone is here at 6 a.m. All the pits are going. And I tell our classmates, all the time, it's like, hey, if you come in and it's going to be a super sunny day, and we got to deal with the heat, the humidity, that's better for you guys, because then I got to cook through that. If it's raining, got to cook through that. So if I'm going to have a mistake out there in the class, you're going to see firsthand how we're going to adjust,
recover, and
how we're going to recover, and what we're going to do. And so, class we take very seriously. After each class, each day is done, I sit there for about an hour. I go through my laptop. I'm writing down questions I was asked and whatnot. So that way, for the next class, I know, hey, around this time, these questions were asked. So try to kind of hit them as we're going. So, we tell everyone, there's no dumb question. If you're asking it, if you're thinking it, someone else is thinking it.
Mm-hmm.
So get that question asked. We're paying a lot of money to come to this class and to really, pick our brains.
Yeah.
And so we don't want anyone, leaving, half fed, if you will. We want them to have all of the knowledge that we have.
Exactly. Like they say, there's no dumb questions.
There is no dumb question. Exactly.
Okay. And I saw on her page, Fire Woman Challenge. Can you explain that?
Right around the time we left our jobs, it was really to hit our last few big comps, and making it to the World Food Championships was one of our top bucket lists. We need to get there sooner than later. And we made it out there. Once we got the golden ticket in El Paso, I told him, we're going. I'm applying for that Firewoman Challenge myself. I'm going head on. And so I ended up competing out there with 9 other women.
What is the Fire Woman?
The Firewoman Challenge is all women on live fire pit. There's no propane, only propane to light up your fire, but nothing else. No pellet grills, no nothing. It has to be live fire. Maintain your fire. Make all your recipes out there and platter them as well. It's 6 different entrees or entries for your turn in. And that was great. I mean, such an awesome experience to be around well-known women. I mean, all of these women have been on TV, have contracts. I was more of the underdog there. And I ended up getting 4th overall out of the 9 women out there. And I mean, they're from all over the place, different countries, different lifestyles, different types of cooks. And I was really lucky to have that experience and come out on top in a way with that.
Congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
Now, do y'all believe that barbecue can change lives? How has it changed your life?
So, probably one of the things I didn't touch on at the beginning. So when we first got started into this thing, it was probably towards the end of 2019, 2018, 2019, where we were really having a lot of life changes. Nothing that no one else goes through, but just, life hits you, when you're not expecting it. We had a few deaths around our family and whatnot. And that was kind of eye-opening for me. I was enjoying my job, but I also knew that this wasn't what I wanted to do at all. Working in corporate America, that just wasn't it for me. And so going through all of that, like I said, I knew what I was missing. I was missing that camaraderie. I was missing the competitive edge that you have, but also like I said, I wasn't trying to be overly athletic or anything like that. And so getting back into the competition barbecue specifically, that really helped elevate, my mentality, and kind of get me out of a little bit of a slump. That really did help me quite a bit. Before we got into the competition world, getting into, having a lot of the caterings and whatnot, you're sitting there at that pit and it's, 2 a.m.
Yeah.
and you're looking around and your wife's inside, no one's around, you have your dog laying there, those nights are they can be long, they can be lonely, or they can be, really beneficial, trying to kind of find yourself. And, you've had all these life changes going on. Barbecue, in my opinion, really helped cure a lot of those insecurities I had in my mind for that short amount of time, and really get me back on track on a personal level. Now that we're seeing the way it could affect us, on the business side, both personal and the business side, it makes me want to help a lot more people, because we're all human, we see the human aspect of things in this barbecue world. And if there's one thing that, we can all give to someone, for me, it's always food. If you can show your passion to your food and help someone through food, if someone's going through something rough, the first thing someone says, hey, let me go cook them a dinner. Let me go take them a hot place. That way they don't got to worry about feeding their family tonight. So the food aspect's always been huge for me. The barbecue aspect's been huge for me, and it's helped me overcome a lot of my own personal demons, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think together it built trust. It built more than we've always had great relationship, but being together and seeing how we work, and what is your, uh, what are you good at? What am I good at? And how can we come in together? And the communication, the trust really elevated in just competing together and separately at the same time. We both got to learn a lot from each other and on our own.
And for us, we're both so competitive that every comp is a high level stressful situation. You can come into our camping prone, can't feel it, but for us,
Yeah.
our mindset is very high when it comes to the competitive side. And so having full trust in her and vice versa, we always trust each other. But when you actually get into nitty gritty of working hand in hand against the time, against everyone else, it really does bring you guys to a different connection, a different level. And so for us, it's brought us a lot closer. And it's great. We're blessed to be having our first child here soon.
Yeah, it's definitely good. So what I made the show is barbecue therapy, because it's something that you enjoy and you don't think as work or having to do something, but it's enjoyable. You go out there, relax, and don't be thinking about anything. Just enjoy
Exactly.
cooking.
It's just reflection. we
Yep.
we use it for a lot of reflection time, and then I mean, even Sundays, he says we get it back home and we're tired, and it feels like a big hangover, even though we don't get drunk. But that Sunday, just reflecting on our wins, our losses, or whatever happened during the weekend, and just jumping back in. You recoup back in, you get back into the game on Monday. You go back at it.
Yeah. Well, that's all the questions I have. So right now we're going to switch over to something different. I try to change up like other people do. So what I made up is, in college basketball, they have a bracket, a tournament. So what I came up with was a tournament bracket of 16 meats that go on the grill, and you
Okay.
just choose whatever one that you prefer to eat, and we're gonna see which one wins.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's a lot different than competition. Trust me, I don't eat much like brisket and all that anymore. So.
All right. Matchup number one is pork belly versus beef ribs.
Beef ribs.
Yeah.
Yeah, beef ribs. I actually just bought
Yes.
some today.
That's going to be tomorrow's dinner.
Next matchup is smoked meatloaf, barbecue shrimp.
Barbecue.
You
Korean.
think so? Okay, she said barbecue shrimp, so we'll go with that.
Next matchup is sausage versus smoked ham.
Ooh, sausage.
Sausage,
Yeah,
yeah.
sausage.
Next matchup is hot dog versus burnt ends.
Burnt
You
ends.
think so? Okay, burn ends.
Yeah.
We'll go burn ends. Probably. I love me a simple hot dog.
Yeah, that
Straight off.
too.
All right, we got smoked chicken versus smoked turkey.
Oh, I think I'm going turkey.
Turkey,
Yeah, I think I'm
yes,
going
definitely.
turkey. Yeah.
Next matchup is tri-tip versus lamb.
I think lamb.
Le-
I think lamb because her mom makes some pretty good lamb, and
and that's
gonna
what
go with
we
the lamb, yeah.
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 All right, next matchup is brisket versus pork chop.
Oh, it's brisket. Yeah,
Yeah, yep.
that's all day brisket.
All right, we got smoked bologna versus pork rib.
Pork ribs.
Ribs, yeah.
Next round,
She's some charry ribs, not competition stuff. We gotta
Oh,
flip them. Oh, that's some good stuff right there.
that's true. All right, we got next round beef ribs versus
Beef ribs.
Ribs, yeah.
right, and we got sausage versus burnt end.
I'm gonna go with sausage.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with sausage. Yeah,
All right, and then we got turkey versus lamb.
turkey.
Turkey, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Definitely turkey.
All right, and last matchup is brisket versus pork ribs.
Brisket. Yeah.
Final four is beef rib versus sausage,
Beef
I'm going
ribs.
beef rib. Yeah.
and turkey versus brisket.
Brisket.
Yeah. Brisket. You can tell we're beef eaters.
All right, you got beef ribs versus brisket in the
I
final.
think for me, I'm gonna go with the beef rib. And the reason being, here in Texas, we cook the beef dino rib, and so that's like having a slice, not having a slice, but a chunk of brisket on a big old, bone.
Yes.
But it tastes a lot different than brisket because you're cooking it on a bone. You know what I mean? So it's a whole different flavor profile. And what I like to do, I like to take it off the bone and slice it down and put them in tortillas with some avocado. Oh man, that's good eating right there.
All right, well, the winner is the beef ribs. So y'all therapy session is over. And like I said, I appreciate y'all coming on and supporting my vision. And like I said, I
Thank
wish
you.
y'all the best of luck when it comes to your birth. Word of advice, just be prepared, sleep as much as you can, and as far as you, just make sure that you know everything that she knows how to do, because the first couple weeks, she's going to be off her feet, and you're going to have to do everything.
Yes.
So,
Trying to figure out how to load the dishwasher.
Oh.
word of advice is they got so much technology and stuff out there, it's going to be your best friend, because we got like
Yeah.
a Keurig machine that makes the bottles and
Right.
Oh,
warms it
really?
up. So wipe warmers and everything. So they got a bunch of stuff to
Really?
make it easier.
The
So
bottle dishwasher in itself.
definitely good luck to that. And if y'all have anybody
you.
to shout out or promote or anything, y'all can do that now.
Yeah, one of our sponsors, we love them to death. They even with our classes, they're always sending out some of the seasons that we use for them. That's Judo-Q competition rub and injection. So Judo-Q,
Cock-a-doodle.
Cock-a-doodle-Q is the rub that we like to use, but their company is Judo-Q.
Yeah.
So they've really been with us since the very beginning. I do want to give a big shout out and a thank you to Josh and Gannon Cooper. It was always a dream of ours to cook in Memphis in May, and all we ever really wanted was a shot. And so after speaking to them all the way back at, in Indianapolis in November of last year, to February, for them to consider us and bring us on, they really helped us accomplish those dreams. And we're blessed to be, to know that we're going back next year and many years to come, hopefully, to try to finally, bring home the first place ribs and the whole grand champ.
The whole grand.
That's what it's about. It's about winning that grand championship. So, that's what we want to do. So I want to give them a really, really big thank you for that.
All right. Anything else? Or I tell everybody that anytime you want to come on, when you get your new product or anything, you got the calendar app. So set your appointment.
Yeah.
And good to go. My door is open.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's about it. Our sponsorship list is pretty small, but that's fine with us. We're grateful and blessed for the opportunities that have come, through the work.
All right. On that note, we'll see everybody next episode. And thank y'all again for listening.
Y'all go have barbecue.